Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda, and welcome to our channel, folks. I have some astonishing news about unemployment. Now, you know I've been talking about unemployment and stimulus news since the start of the pandemic. This channel, the Ignition Time channel, has evolved into a channel where I cover important matters pertaining to the country, the economy, as well as our money. Our channel was the first channel on YouTube to break the news that certain Republican states were being the first states to cancel the unemployment benefits prematurely. I was also the first channel on YouTube to cover the fact that certain states were getting sued. Yes, they were getting sued by their own residents and were forced to restart unemployment benefits. I also covered the fact that Congressman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was trying to pass an extension of unemployment benefits, and I won't be surprised if the Democrats try to pass an extension of unemployment benefits with their $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill. In fact, I will bet on it. The question, though, is what will the conservative Democrat from West Virginia, Joe Manchin, say, and what will Senator Kristen Sinema from Arizona say? But I came across a very interesting and I would say an alarming statistic that 70% of unemployed women over the age of 40, again, that's 70% of unemployed women over the age of 40 have been unemployed for 6 months or more. They are long-term unemployed. This is astonishing. Here's the headline of an article on your screen from Bloomberg. Women over the age of 40 are on the sidelines even longer, according to the AARP, and age discrimination is the top problem amongst older workers. In fact, for mid-career women currently out of a job in the US, most of them have been unemployed for at least 6 months, and this tells us how much inequality, how much unfairness there is in the labor recovery. Now, I have talked about African Americans and Asians being disproportionately impacted, specifically Hispanic men and women being disproportionately impacted as a result of this pandemic, primarily because they happen to be employed in travel, leisure, entertainment, and hospitality, which, by the way, are the industries that have been completely decimated. I have talked about that. But for the first time ever, we are realizing, and data is emerging, that women who are in the middle of their careers, who are currently out of a job, most of them have been unemployed for at least 6 months. And this is actually contributing to inequality in the job market. In fact, here's an image on your screen from the AARP. Worried workers, women 40 and above, fear potential job disruption in the next year. You can start to see that a significant portion of the women are struggling with job loss, reduced hours, temporary layoffs, furloughs, and reduced salaries or hourly wages. In fact, almost 70%, think about that for a second, almost 70% of unemployed women over the age of 40 are long-term unemployed, according to an AARP study that was conducted in June and just published. Here on your screen is the AARP study, Women, Work, and the Road to Resilience, Working Women at Midlife and Beyond. Now, this is really incredible, this reporting, if you will, from AARP and this data point. In fact, let's scroll down some of these data points and you'll start to see some of the key findings. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a widespread impact on women. Women face long-term unemployment. Interruptions in work lead to financial uncertainty. Even among those who are employed, there are concerns about the future and underemployment, like I had mentioned earlier. Folks, again, this tells us how uneven this recovery has been. Also, providing care to others can make things much worse for women, and age discrimination in hiring and the workforce persist. Over half of women have looked for a job since turning 40. Of those, nearly 1/3, 31%, cite age discrimination as an impediment to finding a job, and this is the most common type of discouragement so far. So this is the impact, folks. Like I had mentioned earlier, you'll see this chart on your screen that shows you 14% of women are concerned about job loss, 13% reduced hours, 9% job furlough, 7% temporary layoff, and 4% reduced salaries or wages. And let's take a look at job loss for women aged 40 to 65 and the fact that it's higher amongst certain groups, as you might expect. Hispanic and Latina women, 23%, African American women, 20%, Asian, 14%, and white, 13%. And job loss and reduction in hours by the care type. So you can start to see that a significant significant amount of reduction in hours and job loss has actually occurred. And a majority of mid-career and older women workers were in on-site jobs. And you'll see this chart on your screen. Overall, 62% of working women aged 40 to 65, meaning 6 out of every 10 women, were in frontline or on-site jobs in their most recent jobs. Now, this is incredible because African American and Hispanic women were more likely than white and Asian women to have been in a frontline or an on-site job, basically a job that requires your physical presence, whether it's in travel, leisure, entertainment, or hospitality. This is not the kind of job that can be done from home. This is not the type of job that can be done over the phone or on Zoom or via video conferencing. A majority of these jobs were completely decimated, and women are the ones who suffered the most. And this right here, folks, is the most alarming statistic. For those who are currently unemployed, the majority are long-term unemployed. A large percentage of unemployed women have been out of work for 6 months or more and are considered long-term unemployed as a result. And of the 9% of women workers over 40 who are still unemployed, 69% are long-term unemployed, meaning they have been out of work for over 6 months. Now, historically, those who are long-term unemployed take much longer to find a new job, and when they do, they typically make less money than the job that they had in the past. In other words, they settle for a lower paying job. And job loss leads to long-term financial consequences. You can start to see this chart on your screen. Increased credit card debt, borrowing from family, borrowing from friends, trying to work independently, having to take out money from retirement accounts, having to take out money from non-retirement accounts. So you can start to see also that unemployed Hispanic, Black and whites took similar approaches to pay for everyday expenses. Increased credit card debt, borrowing from family, taking out money from retirement accounts. Again, this puts everyone in a very, very difficult situation. And folks, this is also big. Underemployment is a barrier to financial recovery for 1 in 5 working women. You'll start to see the percentage of women who would prefer to be working more hours. 39% of Hispanic or Latina women prefer to work more hours. 32% of African American women want to work more hours. 31% of Asian women want to work more hours. 15% of white women want to work more hours. So the fact is, these women want more hours, but they don't have those hours. And then there is anxiety about the future. 1/4 of women are faced with a worse financial situation than a year ago, and most of them believe it will take 1 to 5 years to recover. In fact, of the 25% of women whose financial situation actually got worse during the pandemic, only 8% said they will recover within a year. 7 in 10, 71% said that they'll recover within 1 to 5 years, and 5% said they will never recover. 25% of the women who were surveyed said that their financial situation got worse in the past year, and 16% said their financial situation got better. Also, here's another chart on your screen. African American women are more optimistic about financial recovery. Asian women are more pessimistic. Also, nearly 1/4 of mid-career and older women workers are concerned that they could lose their job in the next year. Over 1/3 of Hispanic, Black and Asian mid-career and older women workers are concerned that they will lose their job in the next year. Mid-career and older women workers who provide care for others are more worried that they will experience job interruptions in the next year. And folks, this is where things get really insidious. Mid-career and older women workers see age as their greatest impediment to finding a job, and in their day-to-day work, older women are finding it harder to get employed. Female job seekers of color feel discrimination even more than the general population. About 1/4 of women workers are caregivers of an adult, family member, or friend. Many women took on additional responsibilities caring for a child or grandchild during the pandemic. Providing care for a child or grandchild negatively impacted their ability to work. In fact, you can start to see this on your screen. Work only certain hours or shifts, 24%. Work full-time, 20%. All of these abilities were impacted as a result of caring for a child or grandchild. Impacts to work of caring for a child or grandchild also differed by race and ethnicity. More than 4 in 10 women workers have provided care for either an adult family member or friend or a child or grandchild during the pandemic. The twin burdens of caring for an adult family member or a friend and for a child or grandchild fell hardest on Hispanic women workers. What are the implications, folks? The implications are as follows. Work is a critical component of financial resilience and particularly for financial recovery from the pandemic. While this is true for everyone, older women workers face unique challenges. They are more likely to be caregivers and to have stepped up to help children and grandchildren who are out of school. Many who lost jobs took steps to cover bills and expenses that could have far reaching implications for their financial health and their long term careers. When women care for others, this limits their ability to look for work. This limits their ability to work as many hours as they would want to. And this limits their ability to take certain jobs. Also, they face age discrimination, racial discrimination, and gender discrimination as a limiting factor. They run into all of these issues when they're trying to find a job. What should our economic recovery include? And folks, this is something our lawmakers need to look at. It should include additional help for women and caregivers, flexible work options, and continued efforts to eliminate and do away with age discrimination in the hiring and in the entire recruitment workplace. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know in the comment section below if you have run into age discrimination, gender discrimination, or any other kind of discrimination. I appreciate you. I work very hard on this channel, and I'm looking forward to engaging in a dialogue with our community over this subject. I can tell you more than half of the viewers of the Ignition Time channel are women over the age of 40. So I can tell you that I can understand what you're going through. In fact, I'm 43 years old. My wife is 43, and I understand what is going on in our beloved country. And sometimes it just breaks my heart. Thank you so much for watching. Please click the like button. Please subscribe. Please enable notifications. I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.